Why should an investor consider Malaysia as a destination? But Malaysia historically has been an extremely diverse country, and it's been very popular both amongst tourists and people that are looking to acquire second residencies, primarily because of the fact that the country offers really excellent infrastructure, healthcare, and other benefits, for example, high quality of education at a comparatively low cost of living. The cost of living has been quite significant recently, especially compared to a lot of other countries where there has been significant inflation. Malaysia continues to be one of those places where you can still afford to buy afford to have reasonably good lifestyle with a very low cost. So this has been the main attraction. Malaysia has also been quite popular with retirees recently because of this low cost of living, and also because the climate is really wonderful throughout the year. Well, firstly, the most important thing is definitely that cost of living. In all of these other cities, the cost of living has increased significantly over the last few years. It has always been quite high, and now it's just gone higher and higher. There is issues in some of these cities with housing and finding suitable residences. Well, Malaysia is a country that's expanding rapidly and has significant amounts of housing available, and also just the quality of healthcare. The cost of healthcare and the cost of education for children has been relatively stable and reasonably low in Malaysia, and therefore it's a much better proposition for people, especially people with families or for retirees. But Malaysia does not officially recognize cryptocurrencies in any way, shape, or form. However, because of that fact, there is also the additional fact that if you do have a significant amount of capital gains, and if you're exiting from a cryptocurrency position, being a resident of Malaysia means that you will not have to pay capital gains on those kinds of exits. So this is a big advantage, and a lot of crypto investors are really looking at the Malaysian program. And one of the big reasons for that is this specific law or lack thereof. The government initially launched the MM2H, or the Malaysia My Second Home program, back in 2002. The idea behind this was to attract foreign investors to invest into the economy of Malaysia, primarily in the real estate sector, and thereby obtain long-term residence in Malaysia. So back in 2023, at the end of 2023, the Malaysian government decided to scrap the existing MM2H program and come up with a new set of rules for the MM2H program, which have been in discussion with the Malaysian government for the last few months. And as of June 2024, the new rules for the Malaysia MM2H program have been launched. There are some significant changes from before to now, primarily in the fact that there are now 4 different categories where clients can potentially invest into to get MM2H visas, and these are separated as silver, gold, platinum, and SEZ, or special economic zone. The main requirements for the program continue to remain as before. These include making a fixed deposit into a Malaysian bank, and also purchasing property, which was not mandatory before but is now mandatory as part of the new program's rules. So the different categories for the MM2H visa. Under the new rules of the MM2H program, there are 4 different categories in which investors can apply. These are silver, gold, platinum, and SEZ, or special economic zone. For the silver category program, there is a requirement for clients to invest a minimum of 150,000 euros, or its equivalent in Malaysian ringgit, into a Malaysian bank. And this offers them a 5-year visa that is renewable, contingent on the fact that they continue to keep that visa, the investment, in place. The second category would be gold. In this case, they would need to deposit 500,000 US dollars, or its equivalent in Malaysian ringgit, and they would get a 15-year visa. In the platinum category, the investment would go up to 1 million US dollars, or its equivalent, and they would get a 20-year visa. And critically, there is the SEZ program, which is for specific zones inside Malaysia, which are categorized as special economic zones. And in these zones, the investment requirements are quite reduced. So, for example, if you are not a retiree, you would need to invest about 65,000 US dollars or the equivalent, and if you're a retiree, it would come down to about 32,000 US dollars. So there are significantly reduced requirements in the SEZ category. Now, in each of these categories, it's also required that you must invest into real estate. Previously, the program was structured in a way in which, after a year of keeping your bank deposit, you could withdraw half of it to buy property in Malaysia. However, this is no longer possible. So now it is required that you must buy the property up front, and once the property purchase is completed, then you are allowed to withdraw 50% of your deposit. And also critically, within the special economic zone category, there's another specification, as it were, and that is that the client can only buy a property from a developer directly, and this cannot be a second-hand purchase. What is the difference between a long-term visa and permanent residency? Well, permanent residency has no attachments to it, which means that you don't really need to fulfill any specific requirements of investment or stay in order to continue to have your residency in place. You're a permanent resident and you continue to remain there under your own terms. With long-term visas, there are specific requirements that you need to meet in order to be able to renew your visas as and when the renewal comes through. This can include having to stay for some time in the country. For example, under the MM2H program, you must stay for at least 90 days a year in Malaysia in order to continue to keep the visa active. This 90 days can be split between family members. So if you have a family of 4 or 5 people, some of them can spend 10 days, another one can spend like a few days, etc. And then cumulatively, you can spend 90 days in Malaysia. However, that is a requirement. And then the second requirement, of course, is that your investment must be in place. So if you withdraw the investment, then your visa goes away. So permanent residence, of course, is a long-term solution. And long-term visas are good for people that are looking to keep their investments in place and continue to enjoy the benefits of doing so. You would need to look at the rules that are in place at the time once your visa validity expires. Usually, this would mean that you would need to probably make a fresh investment or change your investment in some way in order to qualify under the new rules. So we can say that the validity is, for example, for 10 years or 15 years. But after that, whatever the new rules exist, those will need to be complied with. Well, the benefits are multifold. Firstly, essentially, the investor is just doing a fixed deposit in a bank. The bank account is owned by him, and it is fully under his control, and is easily liquidatable at any time, which means that he's not keeping his money or his wealth kind of locked away in property or any, like a government bond or anything of that nature. So the funds are very liquid. The second advantage, of course, is that you get interest from these investments. These are usually between 3.7 to 4%. Now, keep in mind that because these deposits are done in Malaysian ringgit, and the ringgit does slide slightly against the US dollar year on year, or at least this is what we have seen in the recent past, the return that you're getting might be slightly higher than the adjustment for inflation on the Malaysian ringgit. However, it is at least you continue to keep the value of your wealth. This is an important thing. And secondarily, of course, are the other benefits of the MM2H program, like we had mentioned, the advantages of having excellent healthcare. This is very important, especially for retirees. The advantage of having really good international schools. A lot of countries struggle with being able to give enough students the opportunity to study at international schools within their own countries, and there are a lot of people that are interested to move to Malaysia in order to give their kids a better education at a nominal fee. And of course, the other advantages of living in a tropical country with great climate and generally a lot of things to do, because Malaysia is quite a vibrant country with a really big economy, many cities, and a lot of diverse cultures. So as it stands in July 2024, the applications for the MM2H program are still closed. Now, the reason behind that is that the authorized agents need to recertify themselves with the government from the previous MM2H rules to the current ones before they're able to submit applications to the government. We expect that the certification process is going to take about 2 months towards the end of August before the applications start. When the applications do commence, we expect that the silver, gold, and platinum tiers will take between 3 to 6 months from start to finish for a person to obtain the visa. The SEZ might take a little bit longer, depending, but usually we expect that it's going to take between 4 to maybe 8 months to complete. So compared to other citizenship or residency by investment programs, the MM2H program does offer some benefits for applicants with slightly elder children. So according to the MM2H rules, an applicant needs to be 25 and above to be a main applicant, but they can include their spouse, parents of the spouse, and most critically children under the age of 34 as long as they're unmarried. This is in contrast with a lot of other countries where that age cutoff is at 26. So significantly older children can still apply to get the MM2H along with their parents. The PVIP program is a VIP visa program in Malaysia for investors looking to get a long-term visa to Malaysia in a very accelerated manner. It has similar rules to the MM2H program. The only difference is being that the PVIP requires an investment of about 210,000 US dollars into a Malaysian bank in the form of Malaysian ringgit, and there are some significant government participation fees that need to be paid for the PVIP, which is much higher than the MM2H program. So, for example, the participation fee for a main applicant is 200,000 Malaysian ringgit, and for every dependent, it's 100,000 Malaysian ringgit. But what you get in return is a visa that is processed in 2 to 3 months. So it's done super quickly. The visa is issued for 20 years with 5-year renewals. So it's a very long-term visa. And critically, apart from the family members, a domestic helper can also be a part of a PVIP visa, which sometimes is quite critical for people that are looking to move, especially with young children, to another